Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's show, I would like to look at the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971 that gave birth to the nation of Bangladesh. So without further ado, let's get into it. In December 1971, South Asia witnessed one of the shortest yet most consequential wars of the 20th century. A conflict that lasted just 13 days, however, it reshaped the political map of the subcontinent, led to the birth of Bangladesh, and firmly established India as a decisive regional power.
We were soon to find out why. The Indians claim to have occupied over 100 square miles of this part of Pakistan, a spot where the border bulges into India and which the Indians have christened Chicken Neck.
Today, this is often remembered as the Bangladesh Liberation War, but from the Indian perspective, it was also a story of moral responsibility, strategic foresight, diplomatic isolation, and quiet alliances forged in the shadows of the Cold War. This is the story of how India navigated global hostility, regional instability, and humanitarian catastrophe to alter history. The roots of the 1971 war lie in the deeply flawed structure of Pakistan itself. Created in 1947 as two wings separated by over 1,000 miles of Indian territory, West Pakistan dominated East Pakistan politically, militarily, and economically.
As the central government machineries are there in West Pakistan, as central administration in the hands of West Pakistani, as the military installations and the military personnel come from West Pakistan, only the 10% from Bengal in the armed forces, and the 15% in the central administration. Naturally, these 23 years you have seen that East Pakistan, particularly the Bengal, is nothing but a colonial market.
Despite East Pakistan having a larger population, power remained concentrated in the West. Linguistic repression, economic neglect, and political marginalization bred resentment. That resentment exploded in December 1970 when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League won a landslide victory in Pakistan's general election. Instead of transferring power, the military regime in West Pakistan responded with brutality. On the night of March 25, 1971, the Pakistani army launched Operation Searchlight.
One of the reasons why there is a Bangladesh today is the fact that troops from West Pakistan, Punjabis, savagely terrorized the Bengali population of East Pakistan. Perhaps 1 million people died. Here now is some blurry videotape taken 10 months ago, hidden since then, of how the terror began.
This slightly blurry amateur videotape, which has been kept hidden for the past 9 months, shows Pakistani soldiers executing students, professors, and workers at the University of Dhaka last March 26. The first sequence shows Pakistani soldiers forcing students to carry and pile up the bodies of victims already killed. The tape was made secretly by a professor of engineering on a portable tape machine hidden on the roof of a building about 300 yards from the killings. A Pakistani execution squad lined up slightly to the right of the center of the screen. About 20 people were herded onto the killing ground from the right corner of the picture. One man, dressed in black, dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. The Pakistani soldiers opened fire. One man was left standing after the first barrage. He was finally killed by the Pakistani soldiers seen with a rifle. Then the Pakistanis went among the bodies, shooting close up to make sure their victims were dead. This is just one small episode of the Pakistani massacre. The killings were the beginning of a reign of terror by Pakistan, which set off a revolt by the Bengalis and ended in the liberation of Bangladesh. Ron Nesson, NBC News, Dhaka.
What followed, one of the worst humanitarian crises of the era. Mass killings, widespread rape, the targeting of intellectuals, and systematic violence against Bengali civilians pushed millions to flee. By mid-1971, nearly 10 million refugees had crossed into India. For India, this was not just a foreign crisis, it was an existential strain. The refugee influx overwhelmed Indian border states like West Bengal, Tripura, Assam, and Meghalaya. Camps were overcrowded, resources were stretched, and disease was rampant. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi faced a grim reality. India could not absorb this population indefinitely, nor could it ignore the atrocities unfolding next door. Initially, India tried diplomacy. Indira Gandhi embarked on an international tour, visiting Western capitals to explain the humanitarian catastrophe taking place. She sought pressure on Pakistan to stop the violence and allow refugees to return safely. What she encountered instead was indifference and, in some cases, outright hostility. The United States, under President Richard Nixon and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger, viewed South Asia entirely through the prism of the Cold War. Pakistan was a crucial American ally, serving as a secret channel to China. As a result, Washington turned a blind eye to the atrocities in East Pakistan. Despite detailed reports from US diplomats on the ground, most famously the Blood Telegram, the Nixon administration continued military and political support for Pakistan. Even as refugees flooded India and evidence of genocide mounted, the US publicly framed India as the destabilizing force. Britain, though less vocal, followed a similar line. Arms embargoes were half-hearted, diplomatic pressure was minimal, the moral outrage India expected from liberal democracies simply did not materialize. From New Delhi's perspective, this was a betrayal. Faced with Western hostility and the real possibility of Chinese intervention on Pakistan's behalf, India made a bold strategic move. In August of 1971, India signed the Indo-Soviet Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation. This was not a military alliance on paper, but in practice, it was a security guarantee. The Soviet Union assured India of diplomatic and strategic backing, especially at the United Nations. When the war eventually broke out and the US attempted to push ceasefire resolutions in the United Nations Security Council, the Soviets vetoed them repeatedly, buying India the time it needed to achieve its objectives on the ground. For India, Soviet support was decisive. It neutralized global pressure and deterred external intervention. One of the lesser-known aspects of the 1971 war was India's covert cooperation with Israel. At the time, India did not have formal diplomatic relations with Israel, largely due to domestic political considerations and its leadership role in the non-aligned movement. Yet, necessity overrides ideology in moments of crisis. Israel quietly supplied India with military equipment, including artillery shells and ammunition, at a critical moment when Western suppliers were reluctant or outright hostile.
The Pakistanis suffered heavy casualties. On the 4th of December, troops of the Eastern Command commenced attacks across the international border to liberate Bangladesh.
This back-channel cooperation laid the groundwork for a relationship that would become public decades later. In 1971, it remained deliberately discreet, but it mattered. India did not rush into conflict. Throughout 1971, the Indian military prepared meticulously. Training camps were established for the Mukti Bahini, the Bangladeshi resistance fighters. Intelligence networks were strengthened. Logistics were planned with precision. The aim was clear. If war came, it had to be short, decisive, and overwhelming. Pakistan, however, chose the moment. On December 3rd, 1971, Pakistan launched preemptive airstrikes on Indian airfields in the West, hoping to replicate Israel's success in the Six-Day War. Instead, it handed India the casus belli it had been waiting for. India formally entered the war. What followed was a textbook military campaign. On the Eastern Front, Indian forces moved rapidly, bypassing strongholds and targeting key cities. Speed was prioritized over territorial conquest. The Indian Army, Air Force, and Navy operated in seamless coordination. Indian air superiority was established within days. Pakistani supply lines were cut. Dhaka was isolated. In the west, India held its ground, ensuring Pakistan could not divert forces from the east. By mid-December, it was clear that Pakistan's position in East Pakistan was untenable. At the heart of the war's conclusion stands Lieutenant General J.F.R. Jacob, a strategist, a negotiator, and a man of remarkable moral clarity. General Jacob played a crucial role in orchestrating the Pakistani surrender. On December 16, 1971, Jacob flew into Dhaka to negotiate terms with Pakistani Eastern Command Chief Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi. The surrender document was firm but humane. It ensured the protection of civilians and prisoners of war, avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. That afternoon, over 93,000 Pakistani troops laid down their arms, the largest military surrender since World War II. Bangladesh was born. Even after the surrender, global politics cast a long shadow. The United States sent the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise into the Bay of Bengal, a symbolic show of force that came too late to change anything. The Soviet Union responded by dispatching its own naval vessels, underscoring just how close the conflict came to becoming a Cold War flashpoint. India, however, had already achieved its objective. From the Indian perspective, 1971 was more than a military victory. It validated India's strategic autonomy. It demonstrated that moral action and national interest could align. It showed that India could withstand Western pressure, leverage alternative alliances, and act decisively in its neighborhood. It also reshaped India's self-image from a hesitant post-colonial state to a confident regional power. The 1971 Bangladesh War of Independence remains a defining moment in Indian history. It was a war fought not for conquest, but for stability, dignity, and justice, even as the world's great powers played their own cynical games. Amid antagonism from America and Britain, support from the Soviets, quiet help from Israel, and the courage of leaders like Indira Gandhi and General Jacob, India changed the course of South Asian history. 13 days, one surrender, a new nation.
Oh, nobody can stop it.
Autonomy of East Pakistan?
Nobody can stop it. Autonomy? Oh, definitely. No can stop my autonomy.
More than that. More than autonomy.
No question of this and that. I want my rights.
Emancipation.
I want my emancipation.
West Pakistan cannot do anything about it.
Who can do anything when 70 million people are united behind us?
Even with the army.
What damn army can do? We don't care for them. They can suppress my people with bullets.
So you're already the chief of independent Bengal. De facto, not legally, but de facto.
What? I am representing the people of Bengal. Legally, morally. I am the man who can govern this country.
And a reminder that sometimes history turns not on might alone, but on clarity of purpose. Thank you for listening. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps our channel with the algorithm, and it also helps our channel to grow. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.